My name is Arthur Mitchell. Art. I'm 101 years old. I was 19 when I hit Omaha Beach, June 6, 1944, and I watched boys younger than me die before they ever made it to the sand. I was 19 years old the first time I watched a man drown in 3 feet of water. Not because the water was deep, because his pack was too heavy and his legs had stopped working. Fear does that. People don't talk about that part. They talk about the bullets and the bombs. They don't talk about the boys who just stopped. I've never told this story the way I'm about to tell it. Not to my wife, not to my children, not to the journalists who came with their microphones on the anniversaries. I gave them the version they wanted, the brave version, the version where we were heroes who charged up the beach and liberated Europe. That's not what happened. Not for me. Not on that beach.
Art, I'm so glad you're here with us today, and I'm honored you chose this moment to tell the real version. So take me back, that morning before the ramp dropped. What do you remember?
Everything. That's the problem. I remember everything. People think memory fades with age. It doesn't. Not this kind. The things you want to remember. Your daughter's first steps. Your wife's voice when she was young. Those fade. But June 6th, 1944, that's carved into me like someone took a knife to the inside of my skull. We were on the transport ship the night before, HMS Empire Anvil. I remember the name because I thought it was a bad omen. An anvil is something you get crushed against. Most of the boys were throwing up. The English Channel was rough that night, 4-foot swells, and we'd been on the water for hours. The ship smelled like diesel and vomit and cigarettes. A boy named Eddie Kowalski from Pittsburgh was sitting next to me. He was 20. He kept showing me a photograph of his girl back home. Her name was Margaret. She had dark hair and she was smiling in the picture, standing in front of a white fence. Eddie must have shown me that picture 15 times that night. He'd look at it, put it away, then take it out again 5 minutes later, like he was memorizing her. I said, "Eddie, you're going to see her again. Put the picture away." He looked at me, and he didn't say anything. He just looked at me with these eyes that already knew. Eddie didn't make it off the beach. I don't know exactly when he died or how. One moment, he was next to me in the landing craft. The next moment, the ramp dropped and the world ended. They don't show you what it really looked like in the movies. They try, but they can't. When that ramp came down, the boys in front, the first 2 rows, they were dead before their boots touched water. Machine gun fire from the bluffs. The Germans had zeroed in on the landing points. They knew exactly where we'd be. The ramp drops, and it's just a wall of sound. Not loud the way thunder is loud, loud the way the inside of your head is loud when everything stops making sense. I went over the side, not because I was brave, because the ramp was a kill zone, and the boy in front of me had just been cut in half, and some part of my brain, not the thinking part, some older part, said, "Go over the side or die." The water was cold, English Channel in June, maybe 55 degrees. I went under, and my pack pulled me down, and for a moment I was completely underwater, and I could hear the bullets entering the water around me. They make a sound, a kind of zipping, tearing sound. Underwater, everything is muffled except that sound. I got my head above water. The beach was maybe 100 yards away. I started moving, not swimming, not walking, some animal thing in between. Half the men around me were face down in the water. The water was red, not pink, not tinted, red, like someone had poured paint into the ocean. I saw a boy, I didn't know his name, he was from another company, trying to hold his stomach together with his hands. He was sitting in the surf, waves washing over him, and he was looking down at himself with this expression of complete confusion, like he couldn't understand what had happened to his body. He was maybe 18. I didn't stop. I didn't stop. That's the thing nobody tells you about war. It's not about courage. It's about what you're willing to walk past, what you're willing to not see. I walked past that boy, and I have seen his face every single day for 82 years. I made it to the seawall, a concrete barrier at the top of the beach. Maybe 50 of us were pressed against it, out of a company of 200. 50. The rest were on the beach behind us, dead, wounded, or frozen. Some of them were just lying there, not hit, not wounded, just lying there. Their minds had left. The noise, the blood, the chaos, their brains had just shut off, like a circuit breaker. A sergeant I didn't know, never learned his name, stood up and started screaming. Not orders, not words, just screaming. And then he went over the wall and started running toward the German positions. And we followed him, not because we were brave, because staying behind that wall meant dying slowly, and following him meant maybe dying fast, and in that moment, fast seemed better. I killed a man that day, a German soldier. He came around a corner of a trench, and we saw each other at the same time, and I shot him. He was young, maybe my age. He fell, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and there was this moment, maybe 2 seconds, where we were just two boys looking at each other, and one of us was dying, and the other one wasn't. I have thought about that man more than I've thought about almost anyone in my life. I don't know his name. I don't know if he had a Margaret back in Munich or Berlin. I don't know if his mother ever found out what happened to him. I just know that I ended him, and that the distance between him and me, between the one who died and the one who lived, was about 1/4 of a second. I was 1/4 of a second faster. That's it. That's the entire difference between being a dead 19-year-old in a trench in France and being a 101-year-old man sitting in this chair.
I really don't know what to say. A quarter of a second. That's the difference between a whole life and no life at all, and you've carried both ever since. So when the war ended and you finally came home, what happened?
That's what people don't understand. You don't come home. Your body comes home. You stay on that beach. I got back to Ohio in December 1945. My mother was at the train station. She hugged me and she said, "My boy is home." And I wanted to say, "No, he's not. The boy you knew died on a beach in France. I don't know who this is." But I didn't say that. I smiled. I said, "It's good to be home, Mom." And I started the performance that would last the next 80 years. I married a girl named Helen in 1948. Wonderful woman. The best person I've ever known. We were married for 61 years before she died. 61 years. And she never knew. She never knew about the dreams. She never knew that some nights I'd get out of bed at 3 in the morning and sit in the kitchen in the dark because I couldn't close my eyes without seeing that beach. She'd find me there sometimes and ask if I was okay, and I'd say, "Just couldn't sleep." And she'd go back to bed. And I'd sit there, and I'd see Eddie Kowalski taking out that photograph of Margaret for the 15th time. We had 3 children, good kids. They grew up thinking their father was a quiet man, a strong, quiet man. That's what they'd say. "Dad doesn't talk much, but he's strong." I wasn't strong. I was locked. There's a difference. Strong means you've processed something and come through it. Locked means you've put it in a box and welded the lid shut and spent your whole life making sure nobody opens it. My son David asked me once. He was maybe 12. He said, "Dad, did you ever kill anyone in the war?" And I said, "That's not something we talk about." And he never asked again. And I saw something close in his eyes, some door between us that shut, and it never fully opened again. I was a good father in the ways you could measure. I provided, I showed up to the games, I helped with homework, but I was not there, not fully. I was behind glass. My family could see me, but they couldn't reach me, and I couldn't reach them. Helen knew. Of course she knew. Wives always know. She just couldn't name it because I never gave her the words. And I think that silence, my silence, for 61 years, is the worst thing I've ever done. Worse than anything I did in the war. Because in the war, I had no choice. At home, I had a choice every single day. I could have opened my mouth. I could have said, "I'm not okay. I haven't been okay since 1944. I need help." But men didn't say that in 1950. Men didn't say that in 1960. By the time the world decided it was acceptable for men to say that, I was so deep in my silence that I didn't know how to get out. Helen died in 2009. At the funeral, David gave a eulogy. He said, "Mom was the heart of our family." And he was right. She was. Because I had given her that job by default, by absence. She carried the emotional weight of our entire family for 61 years because I couldn't carry anything. I'd left my ability to carry things on Omaha Beach. I'm 101 years old. I'm told I'm a hero. They gave me medals. They invite me to ceremonies. Children write me letters that say, "Thank you for your service." And I appreciate that. I do. But here's what I want to say to you, and I need you to hear it. The bravest thing I ever did was not on that beach. The bravest thing I should have done was sit at my kitchen table in 1948 and tell Helen the truth. Tell her what I saw. Tell her what I did. Tell her that I was broken and I needed her help. That would have taken more courage than running up that beach, and I never did it. If you are carrying something, and I think you are, because everyone is, put it down. Not tomorrow. Now. Tell someone. Not the polished version. Not the version that makes you look strong. The real version. The ugly, shameful, human version. Because I can tell you from the far end of a very long life that the things you don't say will cost you more than the things you do. I survived D-Day. I survived the war. But I did not survive my own silence. It took everything from me, slowly, quietly, over 82 years. Eddie Kowalski's photograph of Margaret, the boy in the surf holding his stomach, the German soldier who was a quarter second slower than me. They've been sitting in my kitchen at 3 a.m. for 82 years, waiting for me to say their names out loud. So I'm saying them now. I'm saying them now. It's too late for me and Helen. It's too late for me and David. But it's not too late for you and whoever you're not talking to right now.